and welcome to Banking Frontiers Live. I am Parinita Likhite and today we'll be talking about fresh perspectives on marketing. We have Anjali Malhotra here with us today. She's the founder of C Xcel, which is a consulting practice in the domain of customer experience. Welcome, ma'am. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, Parinita. Nice to be here. For an introduction, I'd say that I'm a marketeer turned digital transformation and technology specialist over the years. So I've been CMO at Dish TV, I've had retail at Revlon, and I was last Chief Customer Marketing, Digital and IT Officer at Aviva. However, my passion for the customer drove me to create this consulting practice around customer experience, where my mission is to make businesses more customer-centric and find success through that. Well, in any field, the most recent development and disruption has been caused by COVID. In the last 1.5 years, there's nothing that has gotten untouched. And as we've changed as customers, companies have changed to serve us as customers, right? As customers, we've seen that life kind of shrunk. We distinguished between wants and needs. It just came down to fundamentals. It's just about family, food, and productivity and safety above all. And that's largely what Universe is about. And what that meant obviously was that a lot of categories were badly disrupted, some benefited, but a large number of them were badly impacted. So how did the marketeers and the businesses respond? I think the industry has risen to it beautifully. Aside from the fact that there was a huge amount of human factor and empathy that came into marketing domain as well as all business domains. But I think what people did very beautifully was the way they acted with agility to digitize. Because obviously during lockdowns and long periods where offline contact is not possible, people have built digital interfaces, online transactions, and various other ways, not just to sell, but also to serve and to do everything else, be it engagement or transaction online. I think that's been amazing, that pivoting. Therefore, I'd say the biggest thing has been agility and innovation. And so the ability to act fast, but also the ability to think out of the box, because most of these solutions have not really been the most obvious ones. There are people who really thought out of the box. I know, like, for instance, let's take an apparel category that got so badly impacted because obviously we've not shopped for clothes because we've not really worn anything beyond our tees and shorts and, you know, very basic stuff for the last 1.5 years. And they've invented something called above the keyboard dressing and focused on things that we think we will still need to do as we engage with people on Zoom calls, etc. Or you look at hotels, which got so badly impacted, and obviously there was no travel or hospitality business, and because of no congregations, but they were doing services like laundry services, food delivery services. So models have pivoted, and I think that for me has been amazing. So yeah, to sum up, agility and innovation are my picks. If we go by what I've said, agility and innovation, then anybody who's innovating and innovating fast is leading. People who have not thought outside the box and continuing to do business the way they are doing will obviously find themselves challenged. But people who learned fast, who experimented, you know, we all have heard about fail fast, fail cheap. But doing experimentation, identifying what's working, and then scaling is so important. And that was evident in the difference between the first wave and the second wave. In the first wave, the human loss was less, but the economic loss was huge because we weren't prepared as businesses to deal with what was coming. But by the second phase, the second wave, businesses were ready. And even though the human impact was so humongous, there was so much loss and trauma, but yet the economic impact was largely overridden because of the readiness of businesses who had already done their homework and prepared themselves for it. So I think a lot of businesses have shown their resilience and ability to bounce back. I'll take the example of, say, retail tech. and that was obviously the biggest sector because we were not going out to shop. But I've seen brands that have been using augmented reality to do trials online before buying, because as people, we still want to try things. And therefore, integrating technology into that has become amazing. Or you see call centers using, text to speech or, various other mechanisms of, technology tools, AI, ML tools. I think such businesses that have been thinking like that have really been winners. We've seen new solutions and products emerging. For instance, the whole immunity category has grown so much, and so many new products have come up. Some of the old traditional Indian Ayurvedic solutions have somehow resurfaced as being some mantra for safety, and which is great, right? So, and I think everybody is a winner in some sense, because everybody's brought empathy to the fore and safety to the fore. And therefore, the basic humanness, which maybe we had lost a little bit, has been refound. And I think to that extent, everybody's winning. So since my domain is all about customer experience, I'd say what the role that a business leader plays or a CEO plays is that of vision, is really charting the path out to say, where are we headed and why are we headed there? It's not just about the destination, and it's not only about, the business metrics of, what revenue and profitability or, sales numbers and whatever else, other KPIs. And I'm not saying they're not important, they are important. But the business cannot sustain just for that, right? There has to be a bigger purpose, and that purpose has to be rooted in customer. We're in the business to make a difference to people, to our customers, in some larger manner than just sell them goods. And I think businesses that have been able to define that for themselves really are the ones that customers relate with, because they mean something to them. We know that in today's times, all of us have become so conscious about sustainability and responsibility, and businesses that have that somewhere ingrained into their philosophy and thesis are valued by customers. So I think the vision that a CEO brings in defining the why for the brand and knitting the customer at the center, at the heart of the business, and setting that objective forward for the rest of the team to follow, I think that's to be learned. Whenever you speak with, say, board level people, as C-suite, we were in the C-suite, right? But you always talk hard facts, right? Data. You don't talk airy-fairy stuff. So data is important. You've got to know your facts. You've got to know your KPIs. Even if you're presenting a project, you need to know, what is the ROI that you were supposed to deliver. Did it create the desired result or not? So yes, it's a lot about financials, it's about KPIs and all of that. But one difference that I've seen is also that they're willing to listen for consumer stories, for moments of truth, for anecdotal insights that give some, sense into how people are thinking about the brand, about its products. And I think that shows how things are changing. I think that is something that everybody's willing to listen to. I think marketing is a pretty focal function because it is typically the customer champion, and therefore, and the customer is knitted through to every stakeholder in the company. There's nothing that you do internally that doesn't impact the customer externally. So to that extent, I think marketing interfaces with everyone. Sales and marketing have always been the best of friends because they usually work together as two sides of the coin to acquire and retain customers. But the same is also true for customer service functions and operational functions, because be it any part of the customer journey, touch points, operations, the marketing and communication and data is a key part of it. Working with data and analytics and campaign management, creating personalization, that's marketing. So you work with data teams, then you work with IT and technology teams when you're designing newer interfaces or new tools. When you do user interface design, there's marketing there as well. So I think there's just a pretty unified, and then you also communicate with teams internally. So you also collaborate a lot with internal HR and other internal functions as well. So I think it's pretty focal, and the integrations and collaborations have only grown in the last 1 year, not just because of the fact that communication became more important, but also because people were working remotely, and therefore collaboration actually became even more important. I think everybody does. I mean, it's not specifically for marketing, but everyone likes people who are willing to listen to their perspective and be able to work cohesively. So I think it's a lot about individuals rather than about functions. But I think recognizing, especially in these remote working times, the merits of the perspective that everybody brings in. And I think everybody's doing that more than they had ever done before. I think that itself is causing changes. So I won't name anyone. I think it's just universal. I'm not going to name softwares, but I'll tell you activities. So data, I think, is emerged as the #1 winner because data is power today. There's just so much data available, but to make sense of that data and convert that into workable insights and then translate that into a program which is relevant for customers, I think that is at the crux of success today for businesses. And since marketing plays a key role in doing that, working with data lakes, working with analytics functions, working with models, working with customer segmentation, creating campaigning, which is personalized. And, that for me, I think is one of the most key aspects today of finding success in creating more meaningful and relevant customized communication. That's one. The second thing that I think everyone's discovered a lot is content marketing. I think everybody's realized that it's not about just your storytelling and brand perspective alone. It's also a lot about contextual conversations and the ability to spark those conversations in a empathetic manner, to be able to relate to communities, to have sort of affiliated conversations which are engaging more number of people, make you closer to customers and make you real to customers. I think to me, even that is a very important aspect today that a tool that marketers must work with.
We see Netflix and Amazon do that.
See, the marketing career is a very versatile career, meaning as a job, you exercise both your left brain and right brain faculties. In the earlier times, it used to be a lot about creativity, design, and, all of that. We thought it was that, and it was strategy and planning and design, but it has become increasingly more and more about data and about tech. And therefore combining both of these together and making sense of it, seeing the whole picture, the large big picture, and making sense of that, I think that's a great faculty to have. So if there is somebody who wants to exercise that, then that's a great place to be. The second thing I would say is the ability to think out of the box and be innovative. Whilst innovation is not a marketeer's domain alone, anybody can innovate, thinking wherever they are and whatever job they're doing, you can do it differently and find some ways of being more effective or efficient. But especially so in marketing, whether it comes to product, whether it comes to communication, whether it comes to creating any sort of interesting engagement, be it even on social channels. I think the ability to think differently is something that is great. Things like the UI UX programs, thinking from a customer standpoint. And let's also not forget that whilst a lot of technology is being deployed, end of the day, you're talking to humans. And so humans also don't want to talk to robots or just technology. Beyond the point, they also want human interaction. So the ability to be human and empathetic, I think that's another way to define what marketing would mean. It's essentially not for people who want a staid and a job which is repetitive in nature, where you come and do a certain thing every day, day in and day out. It's for someone who can bring versatility, who can be, full of variety and full of enthusiasm, and be able to manage so many different stakeholders. Because it interfaces with almost everybody else. So that's the kind of acumen, if you have, then marketing is a great profession for you. Non-marketing book. So recently, Simon Sinek came out with the next in his series. It's called The Infinite Game. And it's very interesting because it talks about, the fact that the most important task for every business is to sustain, is to create longevity, because the life of businesses is getting shorter and shorter. And how do you do that? By remaining relevant to your customers, by looking at trends and evolving trends and seeing how the world is changing. And are we ahead of the curve or behind it? Because only organizations that are tracking it and remaining ahead of the curve will survive. I think that's a very interesting perspective to look at business. It'd be great for marketers to also read and embody. Okay, so somebody who's a novice at marketing, I would still be a traditionalist and just say go for the gods of marketing. I mean, just still simply go back and still go and read the Kotler's marketing handbook, or read Al Ray's and Jack Trout's positioning, basic stuff, because if you are a non-marketer, that sets you up for what marketing is, right? And I would say also go and read about customer experience, because end of the day, I think whether it was a traditionalist or a modernist, I think everybody's saying one thing, that businesses start with the customer and revolve around the customer and end with the customer.
Thank you so much for taking out the time and being here with us today. It was a pleasure having your insights, and I hope to see you in more such interviews.
Thanks a lot. It was a pleasure.